Sorry, I was late.
Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Cumberland Fire Committee. And this is August 25th. I would like to take attendance right now, first of all. Commissioner Hayden is not present. Commissioner Hogan?
Here.
I am here. Commissioner Kutsiani is not present at this time. Commissioner Pacone is also not present. Commissioner Jones?
Yeah.
And Commissioner Santoro.
Present.
Okay, so we do have a quorum, and we have heard from Commissioner Kutsiani, we have heard from Commissioner Pacone, and we have heard from Commissioner Hayden. So we're all set. Now, if we could just stand and have a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance, please. And we don't have a flag, so just envision it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Are there any general announcements? No. Okay, moving on. Approval of the minutes from 7/28/2020. Is there a motion on the table?
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Hogan. Is there a second? There is no second to approve?
Go on second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion?
I haven't had a chance to read them yet. They came at noon, right?
No, they came last week.
The minutes, the motion, the packet.
Yes.
My package arrived at 11:46 today to me.
Okay. I don't know what to say. Well,
Did you guys read them, Tim, Dana?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I should say yes.
I just got them around the same time you did by email. I did quickly review them. But, you know, I have no problem if you want to table it for review.
so is there a motion to table the minutes until next month?
I will rescind my motion because I don't believe there was a second at the time.
It
Or
was
could be-
not.
So I will rescind my motion and make a motion to table.
Second that motion.
There's a motion on the board to table the minutes. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Santoro. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All those in favor of tabling the approval of the minutes from 7/28/2020 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes will be tabled, and we will discuss them at next month's meeting. Is there any communication? None. Okay, moving on. New business, discussion, consideration, and possible vote to approve the chief's report. Chief Anderson, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. The month of July showed 398 calls for service. Been the highest increase in call volume since the COVID-19 pandemic. It is more in line with a typical July, looking over the last few years. Additionally, with great pride, I would like to officially inform the Board of that we've been awarded the Assistance to Firefighters Grant through FEMA for the 2019 grant awards. The sum of the grant was $205,000, $205,617. I apologize. The grant committees were headed by Acting Lieutenant Greg Jones and Captain Eric De Rosario. The Administrative Assistant Kerry Smith key role by reviewing grants and processing them accordingly. In that grant award sum, there were actually two grants. The first being professional development. So when we were applying for this grant, we looked through all the training records from all the employees, all the line staff, and wrote the grant to provide the funding for the class, the material, and any backfill for members to take safety officer, fire instructor, and fire officer. And that will be a nationally certified NFPA program and administered by our own instructors through the Rhode Island Fire Academy. The second part of the grant really had to do with making us one. The 2014 merge did a lot of great things for the Cumberland Fire Service, but we had four separate fire departments, four separate boards, four different directions, essentially. And over the years, we saw a need to standardize, to unify. And one of the ways to do that was the deployment strategy on our apparatus for attack hose and nozzles for fire attack, as well as the water supply issues for the town of Cumberland and our surrounding area communities that we respond to. So a small section of town had one way of doing things. The North Cumberland, and Cumberland Hill, they all had different types of nozzles, different types of, 3 out of the 4 had different, had the same nozzle threads. We had instances where we needed to get water on a fire quickly, and the hose thread was incompatible. So really, to move forward and act as one department, we needed to upgrade a lot of this material, and we couldn't have done it without the assistance of a grant. The first grant for the professional development was about $130,000. The second grant for the equipment was about $75,000. So this is a costly measure, but it's a necessary one. So we're very grateful for all the hard work of the grant committee members and to receive this award.
And Chief,
The Greater Woonsocket Fire Chiefs Association, which is, as you remember from the ladder truck, the regional ladder truck, put in for a fire training building. And it's a small Connex box type fire simulator where, and the Smithfield Fire Department was the key, played the key role in writing this grant. The grant was awarded to Smithfield Fire Department for $50,000. 11 communities put in for this training simulator. And it's something that for roughly $450 of a co-share, we can go down 116 and utilize the fire training facility and do some of our self-contained breathing apparatus, drills, annual certifications. So it was a sort of a cheap investment on a good product. And I thank Chief Seltzer from the Smithfield Fire Department for doing all the legwork for that. So it was brought to my attention, and there was another Valley Breeze article referencing the fire pits last Thursday. And then I received some concerns as to the Cumberland Fire District's stance. But I just wanted to reiterate from last month, I was asked by town council member Bob Shaw, who was going forward with a ordinance, he was looking for our input, and I used the NFPA fire code, NFPA 1, which is our current Rhode Island fire code, to address the fire pit ordinance from a safety and prevention point of view. Some of the confusion, I believe, is the difference between open burning and a fire pit. A fire pit is in a contained, is in a container. An open burn has no boundaries. So I needed to make sure that the two didn't mix. The current ordinance that we have, the town has is chapter 16, it's open burning. It addresses the 2 acres of land, the burn pile inspected by the chief or designee. Burn times are January, February, March, with a $20 fee issued by permit. What the town council member was looking to do was to address the current fire pits that are out there. He wanted to offer some guidance to the people that essentially already have these fire pits. Also to the police department who responds to fire pits and treat it as open burning. So it was kind of on his Councilman Shaw's opinion that an ordinance was needed. And I just wanted to reiterate, I strictly referenced fire code and gave my input at that point for those instances. In closing, sadly, I regret to inform the board that our department personnel, along with Cumberland EMS, responded to an infant in cardiac arrest over the last month. The details of the event prevent me from further discussing. However, I need to inform you that the state critical incident stress team was brought in for all responding members. They were debriefed at the public safety complex, police, fire, EMS, as well as dispatch. The captain on duty at the time contacted me immediately, and we got the right people in to discuss such an unfortunate event, and don't offer any assistance to the members that unfortunately have to deal with such responses. So, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Oh, my heart goes out to the family of the infant and to the firefighters and EMS and police who responded. I'm so sorry. I don't know the outcome. All I know is that no matter what, when you walk into a situation where an infant is involved, it just is a very, very difficult thing to deal with. So my heart goes out to everyone who is there. In addition to that, does anyone have any comments or questions for the chief regarding his report?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Jones.
Chief, the $450 fee, I understand it's a contribution towards the grant, or is that a yearly, is that going to be a yearly fee to maintain the program?
Thank you. It's a good point. That will be our co-share with the 11 communities to purchase the item. The the training facility will be maintained by the Smithfield Fire Department. All expenses will be associated to repairs and upgrades would be associated with the Smithfield Fire Department's budget. It's similar to our air supply. It's our air supply was a regional air supply that we received an AFG grant for many years ago. We maintain the system, and any maintenance and any upgrades, it comes out of our budget. So the $450 is a one-time fee to purchase this. Any associated cost as far as hay or pallets or whatever material that they were going to use to burn or smoke for the fog machines, potentially, that would be on us to run a training, but to actually purchase the item, roughly the $450 would be our co-share.
Okay, so the grant award was for $50,000, so I'm assuming there's a match to that from the locals?
That's correct. That was the $450. It's 10% of 50,000. So you divide that by 11. That was a rough number. I have not received a bill to present with you, but that was a rough number. It was a item that I was informed that we received, so I wanted to get it on the agenda for you.
Next, Chief, I just want to clarify so that in the budget process, we have to look at that if it's an ongoing yearly expense. That's all. Thank you to Chief Seltzer and whoever was involved procuring this, because it's a long ride to Exeter to use the burned building. So this would be great.
Thank you.
And is my voice on or not? Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
I'm not sure if anyone from the press is here or not, but I'm not sure if you have a press release in terms of those grants for the 200,000+ you obtained. But it might be a good idea to, get it out there, Chief, for the hard work you guys did. First, for yourself performing that grant committee, and then for everyone that worked so hard to get, $200,000 is a large amount of money. I think some positive press is a good thing for the department.
I appreciate it. I did notify Ethan with a brief summary as to what the Ethan from the Valley Breeze, I apologize, for a brief summary of the grant and what we would use it for. So you should see it in Thursday's edition.
Fantastic. And I do remember that I was at that fire, that you were classy in the way you mentioned it, but I was there the day that you were stuck in the building, and the truck had the hose on backwards, and unfortunately you were inside the building with firewall around you, and you were the one who was stuck, who had to bail. If I'm not incorrect, you can correct me. But
right. So yeah, I was one of the firefighters in the basement. We needed more line. We needed more hose to advance. The hose was on properly. It was in a forward fashion. The issue was the threads, as I mentioned. So there are two types of threads. They're the national standard, which is a majority of the country using, and then there is an iron pipe thread, which is sort of from the mill days. The Cumberland Hill Fire District still used the iron pipe thread, where the other three fire districts used the national standard.
Yeah.
So it happened there. I was on a mutual aid fire in Providence many years ago, where I was driving a Cumberland Hill truck in North Providence, and Providence had to come and hook into our apparatus, and you had to make sure you had plenty of adapters. So obviously it wasn't the right way to operate. But it does come at a cost when you have many adapters and nozzles and two engines. It comes at a cost to upgrade. It may have been something. It should have been done years ago, prior to even the merge, to operate. But it's something that wasn't addressed, and we addressed it. So we're in good shape now.
And it shouldn't happen in the middle of a fire either.
No, so we'll and I just want to mention too, for anybody that's listening, currently with the hard work of Deputy Chief McCabe, our 4 captains, Deputy Chief Feather, that all of our apparatus currently are threaded properly. But now we're going to streamline our apparatus. We're going to truly have the Cumberland Fire District deployment strategy, and we're going to get rid of some of the old and bring us up to 2020 and the way we operate today with the 3 engines, 1 ladder. So I'm confident that we have the right people in place to make this a very successful project.
Fantastic. Good job, Chief.
Thanks.
Very good. I'm happy to hear that. I had no idea that that was an issue here in Cumberland. You just don't expect it. And that has occurred when we have been doing the burn trailer, the sprinkler burn trailer, where fire departments were required to provide the water, but we didn't have the right adapter, and everybody had to scour around for the right adapter. And that's problematic, and it's time consuming. And if it were a real fire, that's, time saves lives. And if you're delaying the time, then there's a potential for lost life in a fire. So I'm really happy that part of that funding is going to that. So thank you to everybody who worked on both of those grants.
Another key point too, we have 5-inch hose and 4-inch hose, which is how we get our water supply from the hydrant to the fire apparatus. So that's another point in the road where you have to determine what is the right strategy. We are going with the larger hose, the 5-inch hose, you can get more gallons per minute, but it also addresses the needs of the community. We have many neighborhoods that were built prior to code enforcement in the 40s and 50s, 60s. Spacing is just not where it should be. So we will, with the larger hose, we'll have hydro assist valves, which will give us the right water, the gallonage for the 3-engine model that we're following. We'll be able to give the right amount of pressure and operate an effective fire flow with this new equipment. So this was a really big win for the efforts.
Very good. Now, if I could go back to the fire pit conversation. I appreciate the fact that it is really important to abide by the NFPA code of 25 feet. I think that's really, really important. And I'm sorry if people's square footage don't provide for that, but fire pits are inherently dangerous, and I'm not a big fan of them, but I know that people use them. So if people are going to have fire pits, they need to make sure that they abide by all of the rules and regulations pointed out, especially it's a live fire. I get notices where people fall into fire pits, or fire pits go out of control, and there are other burns, houses go on fire. So I don't know. I don't know where we stand on this. I'd like to know when a vote is coming up to town council on this, or if it's just up for discussion, because certainly I think that members of the board would have some input into some of those discussions. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I think it's really important that we abide by code.
Right. So that is all I gave the town council. So the minimum distance requirement, it was cited from NFPA. I cited it from Cranston, who has a similar ordinance, East Providence. So it was referred to as recreational fires. Not less than 25 feet of a structure or combustible material. And using those two cities really eliminate some of the arguments that we have. A pretty diverse community, urban to rural, but that addresses the 25 feet. I thought that was pretty solid for the Valley Falls, the villages that we have in town. One thing that I wanted to mention, and I did mention to the town council, was by fire code, these are for 1 and 2 family homes. This isn't for a fire pit for a 3-family or higher. They're not allowed for apartment buildings. It's strictly for a single family or a duplex by code. I do agree with the 25 feet, and there is discussion. The article was more of a I put it down to 20 feet. I'm only going to stay with code. I have no, obviously I'm not going to endorse people burning. The only time I do that is by permit when I'm signing off on it. As I mentioned, January, February, and March. I am, one of the items I'd like to mention is this open burn. I take it back. This fire pit ordinance. One of the things it does is it allows for some education to the people that are already doing this. It also allows some guidance to the firefighters that have to respond for smoke in the area, as well as the police. So this has been going on for many years. We've responded to these instances over the course of many years. What we would do is we would just make those general safety recommendations to the individuals that were having the fire pit. If we felt that the fire pit was unsafe, at that point, it's no longer our position to enforce that ordinance. It's up to the police department of Article 12 and Section A, the powers and duties of the police department. It says that they enforce any state law or town ordinance. So I have arranged with Deputy Chief Chulo of the Cumberland Police, who is a prosecuting attorney for the town, before any ordinance were to pass. And this is strictly in a draft format. It hasn't been heard. It's up for review in September, I believe. But Deputy Chief Chulo would talk to each platoon, each officer, and inform them of the ordinance side of things, of the witness statements and what they need to prosecute any violations. So that was another important thing, and it also ties in the ordinance as presented in draft, tied in the fine schedule. So if you go to the open burn section of the open burn ordinance, it's $100 fine paid to the fire district. The fire pit ordinance is going to reference that language. So they're going to be directed to the open burn ordinance for those violations. But again, that's enforced by the police. And typically, once we, we've been doing this for many years. Once you ask, you need to tone it down, put the fire out. It's unsafe. A majority of the time, that's all that it takes. The citizens will put out the fire and darken it down. Very rarely does it get to the point where we have to call the police. But I feel like it's it was more of a proactive measure, because really we're saying it's an open burn at this point, when by code they're using the proper container. They might even have the proper distances with a garden hose and a competent an attendant. But I think it's a positive thing to have a reference. But the 25 feet mark, I can only go by code, and that's what the NFPA says. So I will be addressing that to the town council. I'm sure I'll be questioned.
I would hope so. And certainly when you find out when the next town council meeting is, pass it off to us, because I would imagine that others would like to go. I certainly would,
Sure.
when it's on docket. Does anyone have any other?
Well,
Go ahead.
that's-
Yeah, Commissioner Jones.
On the same subject, yeah, Chief just answered like 2/3 of my concerns, but there is some, in the draft that I'm looking at, that definitely is some questionable language. Not questionable on the ordinance itself, but how do we make this work on our end? I won't get into the nitty-gritty on it, but it's like, if it's offensive, that we'd have the enforcement. If it's an offensive, no, where can that put us?
Right. So that's where Deputy Trullo will come in before this goes anyway. He's actually the proper definition of offensive. He needs the proper definition of clean wood, and he needs a proper narrative as a witness statement from the firefighters and his own police officers to properly enforce this ordinance. Otherwise, so it's really he's going to have a say in that. But what I like about the ordinance is we already go on these calls, so this eliminates some questions. We already deal with this, and this is the first time, and it has gotten this far by any town council member that I'm aware of. The last time it was approached was nearly 10 years ago, and it just kind of died out. And the calls for service didn't go down. We still have these same questions for the last 10, 15 years. And I would like to mention through, I monitor the radio traffic. Right now it's on mute, but I monitor the radio traffic 24/7. And we're not getting a lot of illegal burns. We're not getting a lot of smoke in the area. And if you were to mention any year where more people are home, more accidents could potentially happen, this would be the year. We're not doing a lot of people are working on their homes. A lot of people are taking great pride in their yards and using their fire pits. I don't see a surge in calls for service. I haven't had any complaints from any of the officers. I haven't had to respond out after hours for this subject. But again, I'm not pro fire pit and I'm not anti-fire pit. I'm strictly for code. And if NFPA 1 is my guideline, and it's the state law, according to the Rhode Island Fire Marshal's Office, that is my opinion. I will strictly just give them the code, and that's really all I can do at that point. I will voice my concern over the 25-foot section, and like I said, that's why I referenced Cranston, which is spelled out very nicely, and East Providence, and I know both of the fire marshals there, and I'm sure they had a strong say in how that ordinance was written. So I will make sure that's known to the town council members. And I also, prior to this meeting, I had met with Chief Damaris and Deputy Chief Trullo of the police department to really get, prior to last meeting, we hadn't met on the subject. I really needed their opinion as to the enforcement side of the ordinance, their questions and concerns as to definitions, because they are the ones that ultimately will be responsible for the ordinance. If we need to take immediate action, we're going to take it, put out the fire. If we don't need to do that, we're going to step back and call for the proper authorities. So I do feel more confident in August than I did in July with this subject, now that the proper authorities are notified.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Jones.
I believe Vice Chair Gianni reached out last week to the chairman of the subcommittee for ordinances, town of Cumberland, and he's waiting for a schedule of meetings. So I just want to say, I think we need to be in the loop on a couple of the items, so that hopefully with Philip and with Scott Schmidt, we can link.
You cut out, Dana.
Commissioner Jones, you just you muted your.
Let me know. Here we go.
Yep.
Where did I cut out?
After Commissioner Cucciani reached out.
Yeah, Commissioner Cucciani reached out to Scott Schmidt, the chairman of the subcommittee for ordinances,
Mm-hmm.
and which will be reviewing this whole burn ordinance. So hopefully he can keep us in the loop as to any hearings, so that anybody could have input. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just ask if there was any public hearing that I stick to the code. Certainly, if you want to go as a fire commissioner,
Absolutely.
as somebody representing your district, but as far as code and authority, I would like to stick to that section for, if it could be counterintuitive of all the work that I've already put in for this, and I will be the one being asked the fire department questions from them. So certainly, if you have your opinion as to the matter, certainly voice that. I'm not asking, but as far as the official stance of the fire safety, I'd like to maintain that.
I was just going to say the same thing. I think that as the fire committee, fire board, we all have best interests of the whole town and our people in just the town at heart. But in terms of the expertise and the one who knows the most about the laws and the ordinances, the chief should be the person to be speaking to the town council and the people that are going to make the laws and the rules. Otherwise, it should be the public, the PIO chairperson wants to speak to the town council and give an opinion. It's not going to carry any real weight. I mean, we can give our own opinions, but I think we should leave it in the hands of the chief to give the official statements of expertise. We don't have any real training or expertise in terms of NFPA standards or laws to back up in terms of how to make the law. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Santoro. Anybody else?
Madam Chair, just
Commissioner Jones?
to clarify, I have no question at all, the chief referring to NFPA and to checking with other communities. That's not my point. I don't want to get into too much detail because it is a draft form, but a couple lines there, we'd even have to check with our legal counsel to see, you know, if we have authority for enforcement of like objective, like nuisance, but I'm clear that with what Chief Anderson told us tonight, that
But
it's a work in progress.
So if I could just, so this is a town ordinance. It is going to be vetted by the town solicitor. I can tell you right now, I do have the authority to determine what a safe fire and an unsafe fire, as well as all the sworn firefighters. I absolutely do.
absolutely.
That's a state statute. We don't even have to ask SNAPI that. But what we need to do is prevent, and educate, fires. So I absolutely agree. But any fire on anybody's property gives me the authority to determine, if there is a unsafe action. Certainly, that's getting back to Deputy Chief Chulo. He's going to determine what is actually needed to prosecute. So we're just going to be witnesses at that point. The police are going to enforce the ordinance as the proper authority. We're strictly witnesses.
I think, Dana, if I may, it would be the same thing in terms of other NFPA codes we have in town in terms of fire structures. Chief, if you can help me. So if they want to build a new development and you have to have so many hydrants or so much, I'm not sure, so much distance between hydrant to hydrant for the building, and they have to have building code for our structure, has to be run by the chief before the zoning
Right,
board
so
can approve, right?
Currently, we have technical review sessions with the fire chief and the fire prevention office with the town planner, town solicitor. We attend those meetings. We can be called to planning meetings, but typically we go to the technical review that would oversee a new neighborhood, new development. At that point, it's our chance to inform the town, the developers of any fire code issues that we see. We can work with the developers while it's still in a draft format prior to the development getting approved by the planning board and prior to that coming to the fire department for approval, final, plan of review.
So I kind of see this as the same thing. So if the chief's not going to sign off on putting, 25 houses on a 3-acre parcel of land, it's the same kind of fire code violation. You see what I'm saying, Commissioner Jones?
Yeah, this is, I didn't want to get into it, but I'll have to read it now, that I'm not talking about the code, I'm not talking about fire safety. I'm looking at line 10. Now, of course, this is a draft, so I shouldn't really even consider it, but all I ask that we be in the loop, because it says that can order any extinguishment of any recreational fire that adds to a hazardous, understood, or objectionable situation. And then it goes on to say, smoke can be offensive to our senior citizens, small children, and those with respiratory allergies or conditions. If your fire is bothering a neighbor, the fire department can be called out to check to see if the smoke is offensive. That's my only question. Nothing about fire safety. And that's all I want to look at. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Santoro. I think that, you know, in the past, and I know, I'm sure the chief has been involved in this many times, that it's not the fire department's sole responsibility. They work in tandem with the police in situations like this. The fire department would look at wind, you know, what was burning, and it would be the police that would enforce the ordinance, not the fire department. The fire department would act as, not liaison, certainly, but as a team in determining if what the homeowner is doing is within reason, within the ordinance, and if not, then the police will then step in. In other cities and towns, the Environmental Protection Agency will be also called in if there's repeat offenses. I don't know if that's going to be part of a new ordinance or part of the ordinance, but that's neither here nor there, and we're going off into another tangent. So I think we're pretty clear about how everybody feels. So if I could move on and ask for a vote to approve the chief's report.
I make a motion
Motion.
first. I make a motion to approve the chief's report.
Commissioner Santoro motions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor of accepting the chief's report for July 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0. By the way, I just wanted to make sure that we knew that the approval of the meeting was tabled with a vote of 4-0, with 3 absent. And this is the same thing, 4-0, 3 absent. Okay, discussion number 2, discussion, consideration, and possible vote to approve the finance director's
Wait,
report.
What did you just say? Approval of what was?
Discussion, consideration, and possible vote to approve the finance director's report from June 2020. If you recall, last month, the finance report was not ready for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So-
before that, what'd you say? Something about, something was approved 4-0?
Yeah, the approval of the minutes, when we tabled it, the table was
Yeah.
approved
Oh, yeah. The table.
4-0 with 3
table was
absent.
4-0, okay.
Thank you.
All right, cool. All right. So the finance report.
So, go ahead, Steve. The June 2020 report.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Hopefully you all have the report that I sent out, or that was part of the packet.
Yep.
For the delay in June's, but it just wasn't ready to be presented at last month's meeting. As you can see, there is a surplus on the profit and loss statement.
Surplus. Yeah.
Yep. But that's not final. I want to make sure everybody understands that. This is preliminary prior to the auditors coming in and doing their thing, which they will do the finalization of everything. But this is preliminary based upon what we have right now. So I just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of that. I'm hopeful that it'll remain in the vicinity of where it is now, but you don't know, and nothing is final until they complete what they need to do.
How much of a surplus is there? How'd that happen?
It was a combination of things. One was, the big part was the union concessions for the overtime. There was a slight increase in the revenue for the year based on the budget. It was about $20,000 more. And cutting expenses and just watching things and how we spent things. And that's how it happened. And again, when you look at the surplus, nothing was put into the general reserves or the deficit reduction account yet until we know that final number. Once we know that final number, we can either put it all has to go to the deficit reduction account first. And if there's any left over after that, it goes into our general reserves account.
So that's that $65,000? That's that surplus?
Nope. about $500,000.
So that was the tan.
No, it's not. This is just the profit and loss statement. Income coming in from taxes, it does not include the cash. So it's income versus expenses.
So it does not include the tan at all.
No, it doesn't. Because the TAN is not classified as income. TAN was just an influx of cash, not income.
So that means there's $1 million extra?
Not a million, 500,000. Just for,
So,
yeah,
so I'm confused then. We took a loan for 500,000
yes,
and we had 500,000 more.
yes.
So that does not equal 500 plus 500?
The reason why we took the loan out at the time, we were uncertain on how COVID was going to
No,
react,
I understand.
going to
I get
pursue.
that.
So
The 500,000,
yes, the 500,000 is not reflected in the profit and loss statement. It's in the balance sheet with the cash, but it's not in the profit and loss statement. It's not recognized as income.
I understand that. So you're saying we had a $500,000 surplus
Yes,
and we have a loan, a check for $500,000 in a TAN loan sitting somewhere.
yes.
So where is that reflected?
That's in the balance sheet under cash.
All right. Is it all paid off? The whole thing?
Not the whole thing yet, just half of it is. The other half is due October 15th. We weren't certain what was going to happen, so we split the payment between two payments because we weren't sure how things were going to go.
I remember that now. So I'm confused. And help me out to figure this out. So Vinny and you, everyone had us being in the black in about a year and a half, right? 18 months or so?
Yes,
It sounds like we're already in the black.
yes. I'm hopeful that it stays this way, yes. I went through everything. I was kind of surprised at the final number, and I wanted to make sure that we're not missing anything. I even had Beth look at it, and we couldn't find anything that we were missing, and the TAN is not reflected in the profit and loss.
Is there any reason why we would not want to just pay the TAN off now? Because is it accumulating interest?
No, it's not. The interest is fixed.
Yeah.
It is at a specific rate, predetermined. It does not accrue any additional interest, nor does it get lowered if we pay it early. So we're leaving it right now in our money market account so we can accrue some interest on it before we pay it out.
Yeah. So how much do you think we're gonna get on the 250 over the next 6 months?
I can't say for sure.
Six, 7,000?
If we're lucky, yes. I don't know what the rate of percent is on that account
It's
right
all
now.
right.
I'm sorry.
I see it. It's sitting there. 7,000 I'm gonna get. I'm just trying to understand, why we're not ecstatic that we're in the black.
I'm happy that we're in the black. Please don't misunderstand me, but I just don't want it to be misleading to tell you that we're in the black for this much amount because the auditors have not done their portion yet. Once they do theirs, then we will have the final amount. I'm hopeful that it will remain this way or very close to it, but I don't want to be committed to it because of what they need to do when they come in.
So we can be giddy, but not crazy giddy.
Sounds good, Cindy.
So we're looking good. So what I'm hearing you say, Steve, is we are looking really good with some finances.
Yes. And
And Steve, you're saying it's mostly due to the new contract and the combination of what?
that's the biggest chunk of it, yes. There were other things that happened during the year that we did, like making sure all MPAs were being used from state MPAs, watching our expenses, watching what we did. There was also a big reduction from the previous year in IODs. So that reduced a lot of the overtime as well.
Yes.
There was not a lot of injuries last year. We're very lucky for that. And that can't be predicted.
Sure. Okay.
So Steve, when will the auditors find this information out?
They've already been in contact with me. They plan on coming in mid-October.
Okay. So we won't hear about it until December, maybe January, correct?
Yes, probably the end of December. They have to be complete by the end of December, so it probably won't be ready for the December meeting, but definitely the January meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. That is something that would be the greatest New Year's present ever for Cumberland Fire Department. Woo-wee. Okay. Anything else for the finance director? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor of accepting the finance report?
Cindy, can I just interject one thing?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if there's some confusion, so I just want to clarify that. That surplus is just for this fiscal year. That does not take into consideration the deficit from the previous year. So
Right.
the deficit of $388,000. So if you net that with what I'm saying right now at about 500,000, we will have a surplus of about 125,000. So
Correct.
it's not netted with the previous year's deficit yet. So I don't want people to think that we have a $500,000 surplus right now, if it is that amount, because we don't, because you have to take into consideration the deficit coming forward as well. I hope that helps clarify things.
Yeah, so it's 563, 647 minus the 380 you just said?
388, yes.
Yeah, so 563 minus 388. So it's about $180,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I hope that helps clarify things. I'm sorry if I didn't explain it that way sooner.
It's not going to buy a brand new fire truck, but certainly it will be nice to be in the black as opposed to the red, and
Right.
Cumberland citizens will be happy to hear that.
And we have to try to build up our reserves a little too.
Right.
Well, still, if you look, we still owe, you know, we still owe, so that's 180, and we still owe 250 payment to pay off the tan. Right, Steve?
Yes, but that's not reflected in the profit and loss statement, so that does not factor in. No, sir, because that just comes out of cash. It's not reflected as an expense. It's not an expense to us.
I understand. I
So,
understand. And it's already sitting there getting interest, so.
yes, yes.
So we're about 180 in the black at the end of 2020.
Right, and again, it's mostly due to the
I understand.
union concessions with not
What the heck?
fully staffing the ladder. And
That
the
was a,
wasn't filled too.
yep.
Excellent.
Let me get calls, chief, for the Scarborough Road area. Just lost a transistor.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Motion to accept the finance report for June.
Motion to accept by Commissioner Santoro for the Finance Director's report for June 2020. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion?
I'd also
Hearing
like to
none.
say that, yeah, in discussion, I'll just say that Patrick Baranski and the tax collection group, whoever's working over there, needs to be commended. 99.6 collection rate, I think. It's phenomenal. Steve, you agree?
Yes.
I mean, that's just incredible. So great job on that end. Collections are just incredible. It's awesome. So that's kind of what I think keeps, you know, the collection side going, which is fantastic.
All right. Any further discussion?
That's it.
Hearing none, let's go to a vote. Commissioner Hogan, are you still on?
I hope so.
Okay.
I say
Here.
aye.
Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor of accepting the finance director's June report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 4-0 and with 3 absent. Moving forward to the discussion, consideration, and possible vote to approve the finance director's report for July 2020. Steve?
Okay, I'm on again. Basically, the reports speak for themselves. I just want to bring to your attention that collections as of July 31st was at 53%, which is right in line with where we were last year. Again, we weren't sure how things were going to pan out with this virus, if people were going to be paying up front as they were in the previous year, but it worked out to be almost the same. So we're grateful for that.
Excellent. Is there a motion on the table to accept the finance director's report for July 2020?
Motion to accept?
Motion to accept by Commissioner Hogan. Is there a second?
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Santoro. Any discussion? Hearing none, let's go to a vote. All in favor of accepting the finance director's report from July 2020, say aye.
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 Opposed? Nothing. It passes 4-0 with 3 absent. Is there any public input at this point in time? This is your opportunity. Open up your microphone. Okay. Is there a motion on the table to bring the August 2020 meeting to a close?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Santoro. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hogan. Any further discussion? All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Passes 4-0 with three absent.
My copy's
This
on there?
meeting is hereby adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a good night,
Have
everyone.
a good night. See you next month.
Thank you. All right.
Good night.
Go Bruins.
Very good.
I know.
Bye.
Were there any other public members?
Jason LaValle was there and Finn's payout.